You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Please open mind. Discern this in all information. March 15th, 2016, Benjamin Fulford. In
Oh, that went all the way forward again. I don't know how that happened.
Ben Fulford. Please open mind. Discern this in all information. March 15th, 2016, Benjamin Fulford. Indonesian president to visit Holland to talk gold with P2 Freemasons. He backroom negotiations to release funds to finance a massive world cleanup took a dramatic turn last week as Indonesian President Joko Widodo made a sudden decision to fly to Holland to discuss gold. CIA's factions supporting U.S. economy is in big trouble. The latest sign of this is the fact that wholesale inventories are now piling up at record levels.
Today we're going to talk about the New Republic. I'm intimately enough. People are giving you content. Today we're going to talk about the New Republic. I'm intimately involved in this. Intimately enough to know what questions to ask and why there's two primary sources on this information, and only two primary sources. And a lot of people are giving you videos and you don't know if it's true and you don't know if it's not true. Well, we'll talk about that just for a moment. In 1861, a new illegal man took office named Abraham Lincoln. He was a member of the British Authorized Registry. He was a lawyer, a member of the bar. He illegally became president. 13 states said hasta luisa. He proceeded to try and arrest all the governors because he's under a mandate to collect the taxes and give them to the Queen of England, who then redisperses the money back to the United States after he takes his cut. The King of England, now it's a Queen. Actually, now it's nothing because the Queen is dead. So, the New Republic, the Republic died in 1861, and in 1871 we came out with the Organic Constitution. Governors either cooperated or they were killed, like our governor. Our headquarters in Cleveland, Washington was burned down. And the 1787 Constitution was suddenly replaced with the 1789 Constitution. This was a republic. This is a corporation. All hail the President, Abraham Lincoln. So this new republic was put forth by a lot of people who claim that if you buy the dong and the bong and all these stupid currencies that are basically worth nothing, they'll be revalued for a short time. Well, they were. In 2015, you'll see the value of there's 1,100 Iraqi dinars per dollar. It went down for a period of 2 hours, $1 per dinar in 2015, and then it went back up. Several generals in Iraq cashed in. They screwed you, the American public. Any surprise there? So for the last 5 years, General Ham, Mullen, whoever was in charge of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I call them girly boys because all they want to do is kill and murder. They have been claiming they've been working with alien boogeymen to reestablish the United States Republic, kill the IRS and all the foreign corporations like the FBI, which is owned by the IMF, which is a foreign French corporation. What's the matter, Jane?
Nothing.
Oh, it's a foreign corporation operating on American soil. They're nothing more than mercenaries. And under the current existing United States law, the military is supposed to take out the mercenaries. But the military is not run by men, it's run by demons. And they aren't doing their job. So, for the last, let's see, December, January, February, March, the last 3.5 months, I've been talking with the people who are supposedly talking with General Dunford, and I believe them because I have no reason to distrust them, and I don't find any lies or misleading things in their hearts. And they're apparently working with the Chinese to reestablish the financial system in the United States. Well, excuse me, the dragon will rise from the east with 7 heads and 10 horns. There have been 7 historical provinces of China for the last 3,000 years long. There's 7 of them, if you include Mongolia. The other 3 might include Russia, India, and Japan. Will rise from the east, take over the world, and then be killed. We all know what it says in the Bible. They are the red dragons. They're the dragon from the east. What I've been hearing is a lot of things like, I'll give you an example. Paul Ryan's going to announce the new republic this morning. Well, none of Paul Ryan's phones work. So they either chose Paul Ryan because his phones don't work, or it's really going on because his phones don't work. So this is either the biggest CIA operation misleading in the world, or this is real. Now, if it's real, Dunford is in the White House right now, and he's taken over the White House, and he's arrested Obama. The special forces are coming into the White House, and they're working with the Secret Service to restabilize the U.S. Republic, because the Secret Service won't be fired because they're needed to protect the president. So they're not in jeopardy. However, if this does take place, the CIA won't be displaced because they're doing some other things right now, I think, maybe. It all could be a lie. They're actually working with the Vatican. And Trump, a Knights Templar, is upsetting everybody. That's why Saturday Night Live had somebody ironing a KKK uniform with a Nazi flag in the background saying, "We support Trump." I don't watch TV. I had it described to me. I find Saturday Night Live disgusting. I find them to be nothing more than a political machine trying to push some left-wing Nazi agenda. What's the matter, Jane?
It's agenda, yes.
It's an agenda. All of Hollywood is agenda-driven. And a lot of the Hollywood actors that supported Trump are dead. Isn't that amazing? They're chipped. And if they say things they're not supposed to, like I support Trump, they're dead. We've got to do a story on that, but it didn't seem to be as important as talking about what's really going on behind the scenes. The people who I'm talking to are saying that Dunford's in charge, they're getting emails, and that he's now in charge of the White House. If he is, why aren't the Special Forces in ABC, NBC, CBS headquarters and the Emergency Broadcasting Corporation saying the Republic has been reestablished, yay, we're Special Forces, we fight for something called freedom, finally. Well, that hasn't happened. And yet Dunford took over the White House 2 days ago. So either this is...
Or the revaluation of the dollar, they say.
Yeah, they said that they would come out with new Treasury notes, and they even showed the new Treasury notes. But the new Treasury notes have the United States. The United States, those are both corporations. The United States of America. Notice 2 little letters. This has 2 big letters. These are corporations. So the new money indicates corporation. No change. Total, unadulterated BS. So either this is absolutely, completely real, and we're going to see a revaluation of this money today. After 5 years, it's reached a head. You can't go, the lies can't go beyond we've seized the White House and Obama's under arrest. You can't, there are no more lies beyond that. It's either going to happen or it's going to die, and everyone involved is going to be exposed as a traitor and a liar. That's the level that's reached. They've been accelerating this for 5 years.
Ramping it up.
Ramping up. Whoa, we met with the Chinese. Oh, we met with the real Red Dragon Leagues. Oh, we met with the Russians and the Red Dragon Leagues. Oh, there's admirals and generals and colonels involved meeting with the Russians. Oh, well, now we're not meeting with the Red Dragon family. Now we're meeting with the head bankers. Oh, wait, we're going to Los Angeles. Obama and the generals are meeting with the Chinese. Oh, wait.
The guy jumped the fence at the White House, and now it's in lockdown. But the real reason was because Dunford took over the White House and locked it down. I mean, really?
Really? No, the guy killed somebody. He killed the pastor. In fact, I think he killed the pastor in Idaho who was talking about Trump. He blew him away in cold-blooded murder. Then suddenly, within 8 hours, he's in front of the White House, and he jumps a barrier and throws something over the fence. Excuse me? What does that sound like to you, Jane?
Well, it's an operative, CIA operative.
Yeah, what does that sound like?
Yeah.
So what does this new republic sound like?
Yes.
You know? Well, I can't say BS because the people who are talking to me, who are talking to General Dunford, have absolutely no lies in their heart.
I'm calling BS.
And yet, if you stop a nuclear war from going on, weapon from going off in front of the White House, you would expect a telephone call, right? 21 September in the NCIS logs, all over the DC papers, 2 years ago. 17 December, in which case Obama went nuts, and now we have the new Obama.
Yeah.
2 March, they called me, 2 guys called me in panic. It was minutes from detonation. You would think that they would call you. I don't think they're really that smart. I think they're really powerful, and they've got some technology we don't have, but that's because they've been around for a very long time, and they're screwing with us, but I don't really think they're that smart. Because it's either a complete CIA operation, total fake out, complete with aliens, mind control, a couple of flying saucers they threw in there to freak people out, or it's completely real. One of the two. There's no place to go. They can't meet with more Chinese leaders. They can't meet with the United Nations. They can't meet with the Russians. They can't pull alien boogeymen out of their pocket anymore. It's either going to happen or not. Dunford's either in the White House or not. If he's not in the White House, it's over. The entire lie of revaluation is completely dead, and there's going to be a lot of dead people because the King of Kings and Lord of Lords has now exposed it to you, and there's a lot of very angry people, and that anger will build up. You pray, and God will deal with them.
I'm going to let you watch the first video of Lauren Monet. The face you're going to see is this Alfredo, what was his last name? Weber. Yeah. He's doing the interviewing and you don't see her face. But she's answering. And the reason that I picked this video is that the name of it is, or at least the keywords are U.S. police state, U.S. losing, U.S. radiation genocide, and Jesuit base in Cuba. That's the one that I picked.
Welcome back. I'm Alfred Levermont Weber, and once again, we're very privileged to have independent scientist Loren Murray coming to us from Berkeley, California. Welcome, Loren.
Thank you, Alfred, and welcome to all our viewers, too. We really appreciate your interest in these topics, and indeed, where else are you going to hear about some president from us? So thank you very much for being here today.
Certainly, and as I understand it, we have a very insightful and powerful list of topics,
Yes.
news update topics today. So why don't you please start with that, with the global directed energy weapons, EMF HARP attacks that we've been finding carried out by the transhumanist agenda.
Well, this is really amazing. But the HARP attacks are being used globally, and they're manipulating weather to bring about changes, droughts, floods, so forth and so on. There was just a 7.9 earthquake, I believe, yesterday in Indonesia. A lot of people drowned, and all the buoys for the tsunami warning were stolen. I cannot imagine why, but it sounds like sabotage, and it sounds organized. And they're using HARP and these frequencies on the battlefield. They're certainly using them in Syria to increase the fighting spirit, for instance, of the terrorists. And they are also being provided with huge amounts of drugs. And the drugs, the combination of the drugs and the electromagnetic frequencies interact with each other synergistically and multiply the effects. So they get a bigger effect than they would with just one or the other. And it was used and is still being used in the Ukrainian war zone as well on the Ukrainian soldiers. I have seen very definite evidence that this election's candidate, Clinton, Trump, Cruz, Rubio, Jeb Bush, they have all been under very strong mind control. And it's a very, very crazy, very chaotic election, and very different from ones we had in the past. I think you would agree about that. And when you start seeing a lot of chaos and strange behavior and mood changes that are out of character, that is the fingerprint of EMF and HARP. And also, this is also Jesuit technologies that are being rolled out now as the Jesuits take over the United States, all offices almost, and important positions. And we're seeing also Satanism everywhere. All of the public colleges and universities in the United States were transformed to Satanism beginning in the fall term. And so when you're traveling around Berkeley, you can see that the students are also entrained, and they're also under the very strong and heavy influence of EMF, of algorithms, of the HARP technologies. And I've had discussions with people like you and Larry and other people I know who are older and went through the 60s up to now. And what they're doing with each iteration that they roll out, in addition to what has already been playing, in terms of the EMF, artificial intelligence kind of spell that the human race is being succumbed by, is that all of these new feelings and moods and everything are very familiar, because they've been doing this since the 50s and testing them very carefully and covertly on the public. Now they're just filling the skies with chemtrails, pouring water from the heavens to wash all those metal particles and nanoparticles and who knows what else they put in them, bacteria, viruses, everything. But these tiny nanoparticles, when they stick inside your body in the cells to different parts of your biological structure, they act as antennas. They receive and they transmit. And I remember about 5 years ago when I discovered, maybe even 10, that there were press releases going all over the United States from the National Academy of Sciences, the UC Berkeley campus, the Lawrence Berkeley Lab, the National Science Foundation. All these important agencies within our government and the institutions that interact with them were celebrating this discovery in a UC Berkeley lab. And I went to that laboratory website and discovered that they even had a video of these nanoparticles, which they had just discovered they could transmit songs to, and then they could manipulate the nanoparticle into playing the songs back. So that's receiving and broadcasting. And basically, they filled our bodies with nanoparticle antennas through the chemtrails, through food, through drinking water. But I would say the chemtrails are the biggest, and we're going to give some examples today in our interview. But the AI, the HARP transmissions, all of this is extremely key to the success of the New World Order rollout. And just to emphasize how important Antarctica is the main, I would say, a military base with countries from countries from different regions in the U.S. have made permanent military installations with huge HARP antennas all over Antarctica. And England has 9. They even have have one that was in the Daily Mail a couple of years ago advertising it. They were so proud of it. And it was a train of trailers that could be towed by a snowmobile and moved anywhere they wanted to put it in Antarctica. So it was kind of an ice railroad that they could drive around and place anywhere they wanted to. Now, Japan has 3, and one of them, which was went operational in May, right after, or June, right after Fukushima 2011, it was named Pansy, Pansy, and I found it on the Nikon Camera Corporation website, because now I know they're involved in HARP too. The corporations are all involved in these weapons of mass destruction. And Pansy, it says very carefully and delicately, is a beautiful little flower that appears in gardens all over the world. But pansy is a word that originates in French from penser, which means to think or thought. Now, isn't that strange for a military base? Well, it's a mind control base for the Japanese, and they have plenty of them all over Japan as well. And the Russia has 7, and it's still a mystery how many the United States has, how many bases in the Antarctic, but they're there. So this is so insidious, it's so dangerous, and it's so pervasive. And I'm very happy that we're able to present this to the public. As a lawyer, you understand the legality and the illegality of these issues. You understand the impact on humanity and all living things and the environment. And Laurence Battis, who you have interviewed with me, is an engineer. He's been in the Navy. He has that background to bring out more facts, and also he belongs to scientific institutions that even publish and advertise proudly the development and the new research papers announcing these discoveries to enslave humanity. It's insane, Alfred, because people who are sane, who are thinkers, who've been educated, whether it's educated by just living life or in a formal institution, they're incapable of resisting this or even protecting themselves from it. And then, of course, I have a geoscience background, a radiation background, a nanotechnology background. So I think the combination of all of this is very powerful in presenting the real facts, the real background, the real institutions, the real funding, and most important, the real agendas and who is behind them.
Right. Now you have shown that this agenda even has extended to corporations in the U.S. like Walmart, to the refugee crisis in the EU. However, that Putin, on the other hand, is using the EMF-directed energy technologies, in other words, HARP, for a very different effect. Could you go into that? In other words, the HARP technology is not per se bad. It depends on the application. Is that correct?
Well, yes, and science is always a two-edged sword. There's a beneficial application of science or to science. In other words, I'm a citizen scientist because I want to make the science that the public is paid for through their taxes and so forth. I want to make that transparent to the public. And it's just common sense. Anyone can understand science if it's presented correctly. And if it's presented correctly, it can be very exciting also. And just remember, it doesn't matter whether you have a formal education or not. Very often they get in the way, and it's a lot of brainwashing and baloney anyway. But the Manhattan Project scientists who made the hydrogen bomb work told my daughter when she was entering university that you just remember, the university is not the professors or the classroom. The professors need the students. The students don't need the professors, because the university is the library, and you can do that all on your own. So I want to encourage people to get on the internet or go to the library or just start reading or look at scientific institution websites, and you can pick up a lot of stuff. You don't need to understand everything. And anyway, sometimes I have to read a paper 5 or 10 times before I really understand it. And when it's all new information and new terms and everything, it takes a while. So don't be afraid of it. Just jump in, and pretty soon you will be more confident, and you'll be making exciting discoveries, and then you get self-propelled and nothing can stop you. And our website, lorenmarais.info, has many sources of very good information with lots of references so that people can go on and read more about a specific topic in a paper that they're really interested in. So these technologies are being used by the Americans in very negative ways. For instance, they're hyping up their soldiers with all kinds of drugs. They're controlling them with EMF frequencies and algorithms, and they're loading them down with way too much technology. They call them Pindoses in the Ukraine. The American soldiers are Pindoses. They look like penguins because they waddle. They have so much equipment on them, and it's not beneficial to them. They're not being trained to be on the battlefield. They are being loaded up with gear to make money for the Beltway in Washington, D.C., and they are not being protected by their own technology. In fact, it makes them more vulnerable. So our soldiers are part of the depopulation agenda, and they want them to die. That's why they sent all of the National Guard to these foreign wars to load them up with depleted uranium, and then they fly them home 2 weeks before they drop dead. So technology can have very negative applications. Now, other things that they're doing is they are putting headsets on children. They're filling schoolrooms with Wi-Fi. The teachers also wearing headsets. Why are they doing that? That is not enhancing learning. And why are children being used for human experimentation when our Constitution prohibits it? And why are they doing it so covertly? It's because it's illegal, and because they're using our children as guinea pigs. The other things that are happening is these new cell phones, the 4G and the 5G, and each iteration are being loaded with smaller and smaller flat array antennas. They were postage stamp size. They're much smaller now, and there are more of them that will fit into a cell phone. So they're a new array of cell phones or a computer, especially with the Android. And so they're programming these cell phones on an individual basis. The government is, the military is, to completely control and handle individuals. These students that I see around the Berkeley campus are being trained to use weaponized cell phones to attack other students and the civilian population. And they're also being trained to overthrow their own governments if they're foreigners when they go back to their countries. And it's with all these technologies that they learn to use on the university campuses. So universities are not a good place for anybody anymore. They're very, very dangerous, especially in the United States, but this is global. And who's in charge of the Department of Education in the United States? It's the Jesuits. So there we have every trail in all of these technologies, in GMO, in all this misapplied science, leads to the Jesuits. Now, what is happening where there's a positive application? I would say Putin, the president of Russia, is the best example of integrity and a conscious state of working for the benefit of humanity and for his constituents. And he uses technology and transmissions regularly to hold open forums on television, sometimes for 3 hours, where he sits down and he speaks to the Russian people, and it's quite frequent. And they're allowed to ask questions, which he answers. And he does have a very good rapport. He's a very, very good communicator with large numbers of people. And he really is a very good communicator. And we can see in this situation in Syria where he's been laying out, playing card by playing card, the technologies that are very advanced now in Russia that are being used on the battlefield. And these are all new applications, but they're upgrades of weapon systems that already existed. The U.S. can't do that because they have a different way, a methodology of developing weapons, and I'll explain that. But I want to talk about Putin right now. So he has used these technologies, HARP and EMF and everything, in a defensive mode. In other words, it's to protect his military, to protect the citizens being attacked, to protect the economies of countries being attacked, and even to save Europe and to protect Europe. Now, people don't know the history of Russia very well, and I'm sure very few people are aware that Russia saved Europe 4 times in the 20th century. That's a big shock. But Russia even was saving countries before that because Russia provided military defenses, in other words, Navy ships, parked on the west and the east coast of the United States at President Lincoln's request in order to stop the British from interfering in the Civil War and balkanizing the United States so they could get their central banks into this country by destroying it.
Could you just could you just briefly document, that earlier time and then the 4 times, not going into detail because I don't want to go off on a tangent, but just for the record, the 4 times that Russia really saved the day?
It was World War I, World War II, he helped with Vietnam, and I don't know what the fourth one was, but I know that he's saving the Middle East now.
Right.
And he did save Europe in World War II, and 20 million Russians died in World War II to save the West. And that's very, very well known.
Right, right. And as you said, Russia, in essence, saved the American Republic and the American Revolution.
Yes, it did. And what is happening now is we're in a millennium transition. 1,000 years ago, the Silk Road was in decline, which originated in Central Asia and traveled all the way to the Mediterranean, and that's what the Dutch East India Company and the East India Company were involved in, was transporting goods from the Mediterranean region, either near Crimea. They would pick up at that end of the, there were multiple threads of the Silk Road by the time it reached the Eastern Mediterranean. And so the ship owners would send ships from Venice and then later Genoa and other ports to the Crimea area, the Sea of Azov, to pick up the goods from the camel caravans that brought all these riches from Central Asia. And, or they would pick them up in Istanbul or other locations around the Mediterranean. But also, the war in Yemen has very, very ancient roots, and the city of Aden was the terminus of the Silk Road that was by water. In other words, it was the Southeast Asian spice trade that ended their journey from Southeast Asia. And Aden and all the spices went on to camel caravans and were distributed around the Middle East and the Mediterranean region. And some even reached, even the Roman Empire distributed them in Northern Europe and even the British Isles. So these are old trade routes, thousands of years old. Nothing is new. And even Aden, the end of Aden, that was where the slaves also were brought to be transported to Adana on the south coast of Turkey, and that was the terminus of the slave trade route. And they were also transported by camels from Aden through the Saudi Arabian Peninsula to Adana. And those were the slaves that went to the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire was huge. So all these old histories that are there, and we have to know about them or we can never understand what's happening now. So anyway, it's all really, really fascinating, and it's just building on old practices and so forth. But this millennium change that we're in is to restore the Silk Road trade because it's a much better global basis for an economy, a global economy. And already during the time that sanctions were initiated against Iran, they took that time to upgrade and improve all of their weapons systems. They upgraded and improved their economy, their oil and gas infrastructure, and they also built a railroad with the Chinese from Beijing to Tehran, and that is the first Silk Road just had the first train go from Beijing to Tehran just a week ago. And so the Silk Road is open now, parts of it. And Putin has extended it. It goes from Beijing to Moscow to Berlin, and Putin has extended it to the Middle East and to Egypt. So we're seeing a huge transformation, and to protect it, to protect the western end of it, the Egyptians have given Russia 4 acres of land at the top of the Red Sea, where the Suez Canal empties into the Mediterranean. And Russia has a base there now, a port for its ships, and it's also a free trade zone. At the southern end of the Red Sea, China now has a port in Djibouti, which is north of Ethiopia, but right on the coast, opposite the Bab al-Mandab port, which is it's the choke point for entering the Red Sea to go through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean. So the Red Sea and the Suez Canal are now militarily protected and controlled by Russia at the north end, where the Red Sea enters the Mediterranean, and at the south end, where it empties into the Gulf of Aden or Aden. And this is why the war is happening in Yemen. It's fighting over resources. It's fighting over military strategic points, and the West has lost, quite frankly. Russia and China control the Red Sea now. They are not looking for unfair trading. They are not interested in using force to back up an economy or to base an economy on, like the U.S. They're not interested in plundering, in genociding. They want a peaceful world economy. This Silk Road is for the Eurasian continent, but I'm betting that it will be extended to the Americas also. So Putin now also, during these sanctions against Russia, has had time to improve the military gear that the soldiers wear, and they now have communications that are built into their uniforms, fighting uniforms and helmets and everything, and they have reduced their losses in battle by 90%. With these improved communications, with the improved weapon systems, with the defense radar systems they have, the most advanced in the world, and they are they're providing these systems to key countries like Azerbaijan, Armenia, other countries that are part of this new Eurasian Silk Road economy, so that they can defend it. They're not interested in unfair trading. The Silk Road economy was based on fair trading and mutual benefit. And Dr. Mahathir, our friend Dr. Mahathir, the former Prime Minister of Malaysia, told us that. He said, I never allowed an American warship to come in any port in Malaysia in 22 years than when I was in office. And I said, why not? And he said, because it took us 200 years. First the British gunships, first the Spanish gunships came. It took us 200 years to get rid of them, the Portuguese gunships. Then the British gunships, the East India Company came. It took us 200 years of fighting to get rid of them. Then the American gunships came, and he said I would let them into our port. And the the cultures and the tribes that have refused to be infiltrated are the ones that are still viable. They're still winning with their own methods of warfare that worked in the time of Muhammad and Christ and thousands of years before that. And those old methods of fighting, for instance, in Yemen, these tribes don't have any military budget. They don't have any weapons systems fighting Saudi Arabia with, they're one of the biggest arms buyers in the world from the United States and England and Germany. And they're using old Kalashnikovs, and they have this curved knife in a scabbard that they wear tucked in their belt, right over their belly button. And they're beating the heck out of Blackwater, out of the Saudi Arabian military, out of the United Arab Emirates soldiers and army, and they own half of Blackwater. And finally, Blackwater, a week ago, packed up everything and completely left Yemen. They said, we have lost 200 and 300 soldiers, Blackwater-trained soldiers, mercenaries, at a time when the Houthis, those are the opposing forces and tribes in Yemen, were trying to kick the Saudi Arabians out.
The Blackwater are American mercenaries. They're a private army that we hire. They fight for the Americans.
Get rid of the American interference in British and all the other countries there. And they didn't even have money for rockets. They went to Iran, and they asked Iran to show them how to make a rocket. And their rockets are more accurate probably than the American ones are. And they're targeting 200 or 300 people, 200 or 300 men in a unit of Blackwater at one time, and taking out all of them with one rocket. They have shot down so many planes and destroyed so many tanks and equipment that belonged to Blackwater that they just rolled up and left. And of course, Saudi Arabia has lost the war in Yemen. It's very obvious, but they don't want to admit it yet. And these are Houthis, these tribal people are wearing crude leather sandals that the people in the biblical period wore at the time the Bible was written, when Christianity began to spread. And they wear the long robes that they've always worn for thousands of years. They still wear the belt, the knife in their belt. The women wear them too. And these tribal people who are part of the Houthis have no contact with outsiders. They will allow once in a while the police to come and escort a journalist. They can only stay an hour or less, and they say, you have to leave now or we're going to kill you. And the police don't even like to go and take the journalist to them. So, you don't need a whole huge army of all kinds of equipment and everything. It's the spirituality, it's the integrity to your culture, and it's helping each other in organized ways. And a lot of times, the old organized ways work much better than the trick bag of beads that we got traded for what has real value. And what we have been given, or what was real, what they stole from us, is a false world, false beliefs, false religion, Satanism, pedophilia, and all of this is self-destructive to healthy, normal thinking people, to healthy, normal tribes, to healthy, normal children. Our world is being destroyed, but the spirit of humanity human spirit reverses that every time. And a monk in Japan, when I was telling him about this transition and all these evil technologies, he said to me, Loren, don't worry. It's all flim-flam. They can use all their EMF technologies and transmit all they want to. But the power of the human spirit, which is up there, out there in the heavens, it's not down here on earth. They can't touch that. And that will prevail. And I never ever forgot that. And I don't want anyone who's listening today to ever forget that. No one can hurt you except yourself. So love yourself. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself and have integrity to who you really are and what you really are. And the journey through life is an exciting adventure. There's no such thing as a mistake, I told my daughter all the time. It's all learning experiences. And when you're feeling pain, it's actually a gift from the Creator. It's a time when you're changing and making yourself stronger. And what we're going through now, this huge transition, a millennium transition to a new Silk Road economy, is painful, it's difficult, but it's also loaded with promise, with opportunities, with improvements, with better technologies that benefit mankind. But it required a good leader. And Putin, the creator, I guess, chose Putin to be the leader at this time. Putin is not perfect. No leader is perfect. Don't expect anyone to be perfect. Take the good and leave the bad. You have a choice. But what Putin is doing is developing technologies and applying them on the battlefield to use them as a defense to protect the citizens and the sovereignty of nations, rather than to use them as aggressors and predators and destroyers to plunder and destroy and steal everything. Wealth is never created by destroying things. Wealth is created by peaceful trading. And that is what Putin is intending to create. And I remember when a journalist asked Putin, how much of your time do you spend on military adventures, you know, like Syria, and it was just a couple weeks after he started bombing, Russia had started bombing Syria. And how much time do you spend on helping the people? And he sat there and he looked for a minute and he said, I spend 80% of my time improving the infrastructure of Russia for the people. And he has increased the gross national product. I think the economy has quadrupled since he has been in office in 15 years. And he had a lot of healing to do after the Soviet Union. And he has done many, many, many wonderful things. The airports of Russia are the best ones in the world now. Russia is now the largest arms manufacturer in the world. They have surpassed the United States. And remember, these arms are developed and meant to be applied for defense. They're not for offense. And
I just want to interrupt here. You know, nobody's buying from Boeing. Boeing, on another video, she's saying that someone reported to her that there are so few employees in Boeing. They were shocked. Iran just ordered all of their planes from Russia. And it's not just, when I first heard that Iran ordered all of their planes from Russia, the way it was presented to me, I think I heard it on Michael Savage, or probably Michael Savage, what a disrespect for us. You know, we just signed that agreement with them, and they got many billions of dollars, and they gave their business to Russia. Well, from what I've heard, okay, Boeing is an American manufacturer, and our government has contracted with Boeing to put computers in all of their planes that our American government can access. So foreign governments do not want to purchase a plane whose computer systems are open to American access, and that's why they're buying from Russia. Okay, so anyway, I'm trying to get it to come to the end of the subject, and I'm going to stop because when you listen for a while, you start to fall asleep. So I'm just trying to get her to the end of this topic, and then we'll have a further discussion.
And what's happened is he's had a really big impact globally because he had all of the Boeing orders canceled for American Boeing aircraft because he said the U.S. government has a back door in all the computers on the Boeing planes, and that makes us liable to plane crashes and disasters that we don't need to have. So he also, I think he's slowly taking them out of service as their own aircraft industry is producing Russian models, and they're more practical for that region, for the climate, for the geography, and more countries now are putting in orders for those same planes, and they're turning away from the American manufacturers. So Boeing now is in a very serious financial crisis, and they are now pink-slipping their engineers. They just handed out the first 350 pink slips. So the manufacturing of weapons systems, even in the United States, is being impacted by positive action by Putin to improve the lives of not only Russians, but everyone on this planet ultimately.
Right. That really is amazing. Now, shifting now to chemtrail